welcome back to a long time coming episode of Talkin Badgers. Been on.
Been a while.
Things are back, as Coop would say, back in town.
That was pretty aggressive.
Your boy's been on paternity leave here for a little bit, so haven't had a lot of late nights, haven't been doing a whole lot of podcasts, but I'm glad to be joined by my guys Ryan and Brandon. Might even have a special guest making an appearance later in the show, so I would recommend sticking around for that. Given that we've missed about every major talking point of the off season, decided to, submit on the Badger Notes newsletter, asking for questions. And we got a couple really good ones today, and we're going to talk kind of through those. But how have we been, boys? Been a while.
Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's good to be back. The boys are back. Just happy to be here. Just here so I don't get fined. All the cliches. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, doing all right. Last couple months been tough. Lost Marshawn. For anyone who's been a fan of the show, they know Marshawn's made a couple appearances. So been tough. Lost my boy, but fighting through it. And hey, happy to be here. And got a special guest here right now. Hey, Big Choots.
What's up?
Come here, Dad. Let me get you.
What you doing here, huh? Let's go, team. Let's fucking go.
The myth, the legend. This guy crushes Milwaukee's best like nobody you have.
That's right, baby.
Let's fucking go.
Also, think it's worth noting that listeners tuning in wouldn't be aware of. I just watched Brandon crack his third high life, and we're 2 minutes into this thing.
Yep, sure did.
There were a couple off cameras that happened that were like within the last minute and a half. So
I'm setting examples. It's a bad day to be a beer, brother. It's 8:24 p.m. and it's a bad day to be a beer.
Yeah, he hasn't taken a lot of plays off.
No.
Ryan, we're just going to dive right in here because only God knows where the show will end up taking us tonight. This first question is coming to us from David G. It says, Ryan, it feels like you've changed course and become a Greg Gard supporter.
Oh, my God. No way, Ryan.
That's won you over about him. And do you think he's the right guy to lead the program long term?
Oh, so many questions. Have I changed my tune? Yes, because I've also changed my outlook, to be honest. I think I've gone during this leave of absence. It's almost kind of like I went on this spiritual journey in the sense of I used to think like Luke Fickell running the program for football and Greg Gard running it for basketball. Like we need to be competing for championships. But ever since I kind of just pushed that to the wind and just been enjoying the ride, the boys have not let me down. Like, yeah, even the game against Oregon, like didn't go our way, but it's just one game. Gardo's going to have the boys, so I'm still hard for Gard.
Hard for Gard.
I think a lot of it is my expectations now is just to have a good ass time and see what the boys can do. And I think once I kind of remove those championship or bust expectations or Final Four or deep into the tournament, like for instance, like if we go to the tournament and we lose the first round, that's just par for the course. We do that every year. So like at the end of the day, I had a great regular season. He's pretty good at that. And I think, like you were saying, you had another child. We let Marshawn, all dogs go to heaven. I try to take a different approach with my sports teams now. I'm trying to be less pissed off about things and less you're not meeting the mark and just I'm around. I'm along for the ride and like let the boys play. If they win, they win. If they don't, they don't. So it's a little bit. It sounds a little bit like apathetic, but it's also kind of like if they win, they win. They lose, they lose. Until we have anything definitive.
The journey is the reward.
There you go.
The ceiling is the roof. Also, why is Ryan on dark mode all of a sudden? I don't know what we're doing here, but
I'm sitting in the dark. Apparently, I have lights on.
I don't know, man. Yeah, usually you're a little brighter. Usually,
I had a TV in the background, but
a little more aura out of you usually. But
I'm like the Dark Lord.
I don't mind it. Little minimalistic Ryan. I don't mind it.
Coop, you got any thoughts on the whole Greg Gard thing? I know that obviously you haven't necessarily had to change course, but
No, I fucking love Greg Gard.
What about this season in particular has, I don't want to say won you over, but impressed you maybe most? And then, maybe the last part of that question just collectively was, do you think he's the right guy to lead the program moving forward?
I mean, what's impressed me most is if anyone doesn't say the new offense, they're out of their mind. And a lot of that goes to Gard, but also a lot of that credit too goes to Kirk Penny. And I feel like a lot of people clamoring for Gard to be, coach of the year or whatever. We need to be putting Kirk Penny up for assistant coach or whatever award he can possibly win. He needs to be nominated for.
He should be, but I don't want him to be. Keep that shit on the down.
Well, yeah. Keep that shit low key. But also, he deserves every single accolade coming his way. So that's a big thing. And I think another one is, and I kind of loved like Rick Pitino's answer the other day when talking about their team for next year, where he's like, yeah, we're not recruiting. He's like, we're not recruiting a single high school player. And if you look at Greg Gard last year, like what high school players made an impact on this team? We all thought Danny Freitag would be a huge contributor on this team. And he just hasn't been, and that's fine. He's a freshman. It's okay. But the hit rate Gard had in the transfer portal and just developing some of the, Blackwell, Winter, like just developing some of the guys, Kamari McGee taking a big step, Carter Gilmore, maybe the biggest step on anybody. But like just that just makes me believe in Gard as a coach, and I love to see it, and where it's like we don't have to rely on traditional recruiting and even traditional development, as whereas like with the NIL era, like our program is going to be so different because we're not dumping money into it like we're Kentucky or Kansas, which not going great for Kansas, but
well, when you go to the dollar store, that might happen. 2 hours on dollar store.
I think.
But no, it's awesome, and I have full faith in Greg Gard. Like whether we get bounced in the first round, whether we lose or we win the championship, lose in the Final Four, whatever it is, I have full faith in Greg Gard.
I think to your point, maybe one of the biggest pieces there is just the evolution of roster construction, and it's something that. One thing that I've routinely said about Greg Gard that I think is a positive is that he has shown an ability to adapt, and he hasn't always gotten it right the first time. But I think he's often acknowledged at the end of a season, whatever the biggest hole has been, I think he's found a way to adjust to it. And again, he hasn't always got it right the first time, but he made major moves this offseason to reshuffle his staff. What's that?
My biggest question is next offseason. What does he do?
And that's college basketball.
We're losing what? John, Steve, Max, and Kamari, regardless. And that's without anyone else getting maybe Chucky Hepburn, AJ Storr money in the portal. So, like this upcoming offseason, I think it's going to tell me a lot more than this past one did. Which is saying a lot because we were all saying the same thing last year when we were losing AJ Storr and Chucky. But credit to Greg Gard for rebuilding the roster that well and keeping, some longer tenured guys where we can believe in this roster. We can believe in this team. And it's like, okay, but now what are we doing next year? But I have full commitment. Like I have full faith in him.
Yeah. I think roster building is, the idea of doing it the right way is really different than it used to be. They're still recruiting the high school ranks and wanting to build the core of your team around that. And we have the ability to do that. This year's roster has those guys. There's recruiting people from the portal that are long-term plays like Kamari was, like Max Klesmet was. It's recruiting guys that, they can come in and maybe do something right now, but there's still a way to develop through the portal, and that's a way. And then it's filling the gaps on the roster, and that's your John Tonjes, that's your AJ Storrs. It's the guys who fill the need that is left on your roster based off of the other pieces. and while making sure that you always are staying a veteran-laden roster. And that's one thing that they are. We're one of the older teams in the country this year, and I think that's super important. And obviously going to have some major questions in the offseason, but that's going to be the case every single offseason because you recruit really well, as they did in the 23 class, and obviously people they're taking notice of that, and they're going to come knocking. And while none of us know what it means to this point, Gard's made mention that they're already in negotiations with Nolan and John, and let's just hope we've drank enough here collectively to make that happen.
Those comments meant a lot to me. Because whereas last year we didn't hear anything about that. Not that they were worrying about Chucky, but you had to worry about AJ Storr. And last year we didn't hear anything like that at this point in the season. And for Gard to come out and say at this point in the season, we're preparing for next year. Like, we're trying to offer these guys. We're trying to give these guys money. That means a lot to me. And that means a lot to what the university is buying into this program.
But that's right there is exactly why I have, quote, changed my tune. Like, I've never necessarily been like, Gard can't do it. We'd always get back to that we'd always get back to that expectations. Like, if the expectation is to be X, Y, or Z, then yeah, sometimes we have to have hard conversations. But I think the one thing that I was really, really concerned about, I feel like Gard has completely alleviated any kind of like anxiety I had about it. Like, my biggest thing was, you can't play that old school basketball. And are you, and I don't want to sound disrespectful because, I like PC, but are you going to be like Paul Chris, where you're just kind of set in your ways and just like, you're just going to mail it in until you get fired? And he literally, everything he's going to do, he's talking about contracts with guys. If you, like, I used to question, like, when sometimes they would bring him in, the man.
Look at this fucking guy, dude.
There's our special guest. Welcome, everybody. Our skinny king, Jason.
Walking ad for Ozempic over here, dude.
Beast.
Jay, just to get you up to speed here. So we received listener questions. Everybody here on the panel received one targeted question. The first one was to Ryan, and it was about him, changing his tune a little bit on Greg Gard and, what exactly won him over and, whether or not he thinks he's the right guy to lead the program long term. Any overarching thoughts on what you've seen to this point, fully acknowledging that we've basically missed the heart of, our podcasting off season. So just wanted to leave it up to the listeners what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Jay, before you talk, I just want to say this. Raw, next question. You look great.
You might have to do the show shirtless.
Start off?
Raw, next question.
You guys are crazy. Yeah, Gard clearly has made a big shift this year. I already seen a lot of Twitter people be like, "Oh, it's all Penny. It's all Kirk Penny doing." But I don't know. Gard's made a lot of adjustments. The whole team's made adjustments. I think they look good, relatively good. Just cat behind me. I'm glad to be back with you boys. I missed you guys.
I missed you too.
But to your point there, Jay, when you say if people want to give Penny credit, I did the same thing last year when I was criticizing Fickle about his offense and sometimes the mismanagement. You are who you hire, and he gets credit for hiring Penny. So it's like, if he changed the offense, cool. He didn't hire himself.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. If he hired somebody else and they weren't going, if he went external, he didn't hire an alum, and they finished 12 this year in the Big Ten. Everybody would be on the fire Gard train super hard that he didn't bring in the right people.
Since our guy Jay hopped on here, we got the next question is actually for him here. One is also from another man named Jason, no last initial. It says, Jason, Wisconsin snapped a 22-year bowl streak last year. With the moves the staff has made this offseason, both personnel and coaches, do you feel confident that the Badgers will start a new bowl streak in 2025?
Absolutely not. No. So I actually just had this conversation with one of my coworkers that I think that if Fickle somehow can get bowl eligible this year, that is a greater
A
achievement.
miracle.
Greater achievement than what Greg Gard has done with this roster this year.
Yes.
And Greg Gard is Naismith Coach of the Year finalist. Do you think it's possible that Luke Fickell could win 6 games and win Coach of the Year in college football? Because that's literally what might have to happen.
I couldn't love your answer more. I was out with Ryan Herring, had a little group that went out to the Oregon Ducks game, and we were at the bar having a couple, and the question was brought up, like, do you think that this year's team, offensively has a chance to be better? I'm like, absolutely. And they're like, do you think we could reach 8 wins? I said, absolutely not. I think to me, the ceiling, I want to be careful here. The ceiling, and I don't think that means everything breaks right. To me, that is 6 games.
Yeah.
And that's not
5.
It's hard. It's hard for me to get to 6 games.
Oh, I can't get to 6 games, but I'm just trying to, like, if I wanted to be Mr. Optimism, maybe there is a way, but I don't see it. So I want that answer out of you.
My old man and I were arguing about it earlier. 3 games we win. Do you fire Fickell?
I would say that was going to be my question, Coop.
I say no.
That's the ceiling. Where's the floor? And
I say no. But I think 3 is the floor.
I mean, I think outside going winless, like they shouldn't, in my opinion. I just think I just think it's so the landscape of everything. I think I know you're going to hate this one, Ryan, but I just think they need more time. Like, you need more time. I think when you're into year 5 and 6 is when you can really evaluate a coach. I think being 3 years, 4 years, 3.5 years in, whatever you want to call it. Like, and I'm not using the get your own guys in there excuse. I just think, like, building a culture.
In there, dude.
What the fuck did you say to me?
What?
I mean, I think I'd feel a lot more comfortable because I think we know that the schedule is a gauntlet. We don't expect this roster to be good at all. So again, like, if we're saying that we think that we're struggling to get to 4 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, and then they go and win 2 or 3 games, I don't think you can be like, yeah, we need to fire them. I think if they go winless or win 1 game, like, then it's like, all right, maybe it's time to move on. But I still would like to see him after. I would like to really evaluate him next year when we think that the schedule's weak. He's definitely got, a 2nd-year offense coordinator. That's when I think I could really get into it a little bit more. And then when they suck, I'm going to push that off another year and say, I think we should wait till year 6 to really decide. But that's the whole point of me being a fan.
Yeah, I say we don't have enough time to get into all the nuances of that crazy take. I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, if you're being realistic, you don't want to fire him because we know. But you also have to look at it in the transient nature of college football. These situations aren't going to change year to year. And the thing that Fickell's was going to have to go through about building a culture and stuff with players that are transient. Every single coach in college football has to go through that. He's not on an uneven playing field. And I think a lot of the people that buy season tickets and go to games and people that would want him to be fired aren't looking at new offensive coordinator, new parts, or transfer portal. They're going to the games and they're tired of going there and seeing them lose. And if you're looking at year 3, you're going 3-9 or 4-8. Those Scott Frost comparisons from me are going to get real loud.
I mean, yeah, I'll be right behind you too, but.
I as far as the question about 3 wins, I would not fire Fickell, and it's not because I just think that's how you get into a really dangerous loop as a program. Just in terms of mediocrity. I'm not saying
if we win 3 games next year, then the year after, like, that's make or break because the schedule's easy.
100%.
I would agree. Yeah,
it could only be good when the schedule is easy, though. Do you have
that's the part where I struggle, but I think it's because I'll give him the benefit of the doubt of, like, getting multiple recruiting classes in here. Whereas if it was a more tenured coach and we were in this predicament, I think it'd be different.
Also, I look at that schedule, and I think as the offseason progresses and we start talking more football after this great basketball runs over, I think we have to talk about how daunting this schedule is. Like on paper, we can look at it, but it's like,
well,
I mean, every team's always going to be good. That's life, dude.
Ryan, I'm kind of with you. Is it daunting or is it just the Big Ten?
I mean, you got Ohio State at home, and then
go to Bama and the Big House in back-to-back weeks. That's pretty fucking daunting to me.
Those two.
Dude,
and
I've done that in NCAA college football fucking multiple times. I've won 5 championships in a row with Colorado State. Give me a break.
Yeah, well, I'm all on board for them hiring you, Coop. I think the Badgers should hire you.
Me too.
But do you really think they would go to the Big House and like Michigan's not a good football team? And as those Harbaugh,
I think you're wrong.
Okay, I mean,
I don't know that Michigan.
They literally beat the national champions.
I don't know that game won't be like a close game. I don't know that, but I do think that like the Big House, like that atmosphere has juice regardless.
Exactly. That's a whole different animal, brother.
And I think like in Badger fashion, like if they get waxed against Bama or even they're in a close one and lose at the end, like what are they gonna have? What are they gonna, you never know what they're gonna run out there the next week. Like,
yeah.
But it also look at this team that we were always talking about. We want to see them do this. They're sending, even if it's not necessarily the greatest results. Yes, Michigan beat the national champs. I get it. I didn't say they're a terrible team, but also remember this is the same Wisconsin team that had its worst quarterback play in 3 decades.
Oh, what ass!
But they were in the game against Oregon and Penn State late. 2 of teams, Final 4 in the Final 8, Elite 8 in the country, and could have won the game. So it's like if you can't compete with Michigan in year 3, and you were hanging with Oregon and Penn State, who were in the playoffs, like that's this way, not this way.
Yeah, both at home, correct?
Right.
That plays a part.
I just want to temper your expectations a little bit, Ryan, that I don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be great, but I'm also like, I'm not going to just lay down and say if they get to 6 wins, like he gets coach of the year. It's like
I do.
Illinois is still not a great football team.
I think we should build a statue for him if he gets to 6 wins.
I'm with Jay. If we get to 6 wins, I'm talking coach of the year consideration, dude.
I won't fully feel that way, but I will be really impressed.
I will be.
I truly would be.
I will be tarps off at the Meineke Car Care Bowl if it's
it's absolutely. Dude, I'll be eating the Pop-Tart.
Yeah. I will be the Pop-Tart.
Hey, I will say, hold on, one thing. Ryan, you're not going to have any idea who this is, but Dylan and Jay will. Did you guys realize, and I just found this out like a week and a half ago, that Alex Collins is the general manager of Colorado State football?
Yeah, he's been following Lane Kiffin around for a while. He was at
USC. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. Alex Collins is the new GM of Colorado State football.
Yeah,
my second favorite team.
Let me become your Max Steinecker. I will be a fucking dog on the recruiting.
I follow him. Dude, part of me wants to DM him so bad. Where it's like, dude, I've won 5 straight national championships in college football, 25. So, like, if you need some help, let me know.
He has a pretty cool run. He has a pretty cool run because he didn't play sports like a ton of in high school, and then he went to USC for school, and he
was a grad assistant,
student manager there, and then he ended up when Kiffin was there. He was the guy who did the Juju Smith-Schuster tracker.
Yeah,
and then when Kiffin. I think he went off to he became like a GA, like you said, or something at USC, and then he went to Nevada for like a year.
Yeah, he was a director of player personnel at Nevada or something.
Yeah, and then Kiffin went to FAU and he followed him, and then he followed him to Ole Miss.
Yeah, he's the GM of fucking Colorado State.
Crazy.
Sam Dallas would be an understatement.
Which is awesome. Good for
baby.
So that's a good segue to at some point what is the loss of Max? Dylan, you said it that is a bigger loss than I think people think.
So I think that might in a small way play into this next question. Kind of segues off of Jay's and maybe works in a little bit of Max. So this one is coming from Garrett L. And it was to me. Dylan, you have often talked about why you don't think Wisconsin football will ever win a championship or is capable of winning a championship. Why is that? Well, so to me, yeah, I understand the argument that, recruiting rankings don't matter, but I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. 8 of the last 9 national champions have averaged a recruiting class ranking in the top 10 over that 4-year span. And so if you are of the opinion that they don't matter at all, in the aggregate, that's objectively wrong. And I have very serious questions and doubts that Wisconsin will ever have the ability to do that, let alone do that consistently. I mean, our highest rated class, didn't even scratch that surface. So, the Big Ten and the SEC have signed 76% of the top 247 recruits in this last recruiting class. We got 2 of those guys. We're playing in a football conference where all of those guys are in our conference and we're not recruiting at that level. And that's not to say that I'm unimpressed with, what our recruiting department has been able to do. But I just don't think realistically we're ever going to be able to recruit at that level. And then there also comes the part of player retention. And even if the, house settlement comes in, we're still not going to be able, to match the NIL dollars, behind the scenes as some of these other programs. And so I worry about our ability to retain the pieces that we do have. And then I guess just to talk about the Max piece, I think it matters quite a bit. I'm not saying he's irreplaceable by any means. But I think it's going to have some short-term effect. We have 1 commit right now in the 2026 class. It's not a particularly special in-state class. He was the kind of the lead man on a lot of them. I think it's going to have a little bit of impact in the short term, but I guess just long term, I don't think we're ever going to be able to bring in the talent needed to win at that level. And I guess maybe the bigger piece for me is I actually think the new college football playoff system is actually a huge detriment to Wisconsin. With there being more teams in the field, I think the chances of us ever competing for a championship probably just went out the window entirely. If we make it, I don't see any scenario where we win 3 games against a field full of teams that we aren't going to be favored against. Under the old format, if Hornibrook would have let us down for a score there, we win 1 game, we're in the big dance. I feel a lot better about our odds of winning 1 big game than I do us stringing together 3 big games. So for me, it's all of that. We're not going to be able to ever get the talent necessary, nor be able to retain them, which is a big piece. And I also think it's too many games for us against opponents that are going to have more talent than us. And so for all those reasons, I don't think we will ever win a national championship.
Can you just talk about just quick how the format changed? Like, because you said that the format kind of effectively rendered it meaningless. How did the format change, in your opinion, affect it, though?
Well, I thought I feel like I laid that out. It's the fact that if the Badgers make the playoffs, doesn't matter as what seed they're having.
You're still making the playoffs. You more of a field to get into, though. So effectively you have a better chance.
Sure, I guess if you want to look at it that way, but to me, the odds of you actually doing anything in the playoff in this with that many teams is actually so much further away than if you got yourself into the 4 team like we did in the past. I have no expectation of going to making the playoffs in the past. Had we done it under the 4 team format, I think in that, with the 4 teams, I feel like that would have, if they made it, given them a better shot because there were less games where things had to all go right to come together, where I just don't see a world where we're going to win 3 games, even if we get in the field. I just don't. I think you have to win too many more games against teams that you're probably not capable of consistently beating. And so for me, your odds are not better by simply just being in the field.
Yeah, I feel like we saw that kind of this year with some of those teams that, Indiana, SMU, like those teams kind of got waxed because like they had to play perfect games in there. So like I think your point is like they could get to the playoff potentially if they have a really, really good year. But then after that, it's like it doesn't. I think the retention thing, like you said, like that one really sticks with me because being a I mean, no way around it. We're kind of a bottom tier Big Ten team right now, like middle at best. Like we're essentially what MAC schools are to us. Like the SEC is just gonna poach anybody who's good, or they're gonna, the guys that aren't getting opportunity they're gonna go quit. They're gonna go jump somewhere, right away. I think retaining people is gonna be very, very hard when you're having these mid-level seasons. Like let's say we have whoever has a good year this year who's an underclassman. Like how do you keep them at Wisconsin? I don't know how.
And you can't hide them either, because as we were talking about, like you were talking about Alex Collins as a GM, like all these guys that are becoming GMs and doing that stuff are pounding film. So it's like you may have a guy that played in a spring game. There's eyes on that person now if there's any kind of film. So it's like like a perfect example would be like Xavier Lucas. Like obviously there's a lot of other stuff that went into it, but it'd be silly to say we didn't try to retain him. Mm-hmm. And it's like you just physically, he went to so far as he just dropped out and then enrolled. So it's like not only can you not retain, but it's like clearly people got eyes on your players even when you're bad. Now imagine if you're good and you don't make the playoff, all those good players are gone.
Well, you can even, I think John Tonje is even like an example where like he progressively got better at Colorado State every single year, and then he went and got hurt at Missouri. And like these coaches have so much data on these guys, whether they play or not play, that Greg Gard and I feel like other shooters wanted to get him, and he fit. Fortunately, he fits our system so well. Like basketball, at least there's like a lot of guys, but there's less positions that need to go right. Like
you only got 5 on the floor. That helps.
Football is just like, you're just throwing a dart at the map and hoping that somebody hits.
I think the reason I was asking about like when Dylan was saying about if the format changed it, I was just thinking like, assuming conference realignment happens because money still happens. I just did like the easy like third grade math, like 14 that it's going to be soon versus 4, you effectively get into the playoff. If all the top teams that have those big banks still pay it, like you could still get them, since the top 4 teams aren't going to be the conference champions, they're going to be however they seed them. You could still get a game against the SMUs, the Indianas, like I love Arizona State. Like if Wisconsin was humming, like they could beat a team like that. Like, Dylan, I agree. They're not going to go beat 3 of those top dog teams, but you could sneak in there and win a couple games and like really sell your program. But I agree. I don't think you're going to win a title.
I agree that like I'm not saying that they're not capable of winning anything. Like they certainly could win a game. I just think under the current college football playoff format that there aren't going to be any Cinderellas. I think Cinderellas are going to be disguised as those Ohio States that were maybe they might have been the most talented team in the country, but they lost 2 games. And because the regular season mattered, because the regular season matters less. Yeah. Your Cinderella just so happens to be the team that was probably the most talented all along. And even though they didn't capitalize on games that in the past used to matter more, I think those are your Cinderellas now, are those teams, those top teams that faltered one too many times in the regular season and have a lower seed. I don't think Cinderella looks like, the 4th or 5th best team in the Big Ten or SEC that get in and go on a run. That's just my opinion, though.
I also don't. Maybe this is a take, but I don't know that like getting to the playoff is like like financially, absolutely, it's like a program boost and stuff. But like from a recruiting perspective, I don't know that it is, because like I just think back to like the Badgers basketball Final Four run, like. Remember, we always, I feel like Badgers basketball has always talked about like they don't retain in-state talent. Well, we got Sam Decker and Bronson Koenig, and they went to back-to-back Final Fours. And what Wisconsin talent did we get after that? Nobody. So like that did nothing for recruiting. Essentially, it almost might have gotten worse after that. So like it's kind of the same. I feel like it's similar. Like, do I expect Indiana to be good next year? Or I don't even know if Arizona State will be good next year. Will SMU be good next year? I don't know that. Them getting to the playoff did a lot for their recruiting boosting, like and success year to year. I don't know that
money exactly, Ryan.
So different.
Money. I do think donors are probably coming out of the woodwork for some of those programs, but
and who knows? We're gonna see like what are the new rules going to be if they do this rev sharing or who it's
impossible to project.
Like.
Is that going to be capped?
You can do like every team will have, or every university will have rev sharing, but you can also do NIL. So like
Right.
where?
But it sounds like they're gonna regulate it. Which what does that even mean? Like
we thought they'd regulate it 4 years ago, and look what's happened.
Yeah, it's just so hard to project, honestly. Like Jay was saying,
It's
like
crazy.
year to year,
And
you just don't even really know
the
how
thing
much is going to carry over.
The thing is, you can say you're going to regulate it. I remember, I forget what documentary it was. Lendell White was talking about showing up to his apartment after USC games with $250,000 cash in a fucking duffel bag sitting in his apartment for him. Like, you can pretend to regulate it all you want. It's never going to happen.
Well, and didn't Congress or whoever the legislative body said, like, you can't regulate name, image, and likeness? So if someone wants to walk up and give you $1 million to play somewhere, I mean, outside of paying taxes on it, if it's a gift, unless it's like a, whatever you want to file off as gifts or whatever, as long as you pay taxes on it, like, no one can say that you can't get paid money for being you.
Yeah.
That's what makes America great.
Well, exactly. So it's like the idea that we're going to regulate things. It's like, okay, makes sense.
I'm a pro-capitalist. All right, we're starting to get a little long here. So Coop, because I feel like this last question for you could go a lot of different ways, and I do want to have, because this was addressed to Coop, I do want him to go first. But if anyone else wants to chime in their pairing afterwards, I would love to hear it. So, Coop, this one is coming to you from a guy who's going by the name Grit Factory Foreman. It says, Coop, if you had to pick one current, I'm going to give you the first part of the question and then let you answer, and then I will give you part 2 after. So it says, Coop, if you had to pick one current Badger to be your wingman at a bar, who would you pick and why?
So, any sport?
Yep.
Daniel Freitag.
Oh,
okay.
Not a doubt. Just seems like an ultimate team guy. And especially, like, for me, bigger fella, a little chubby, I need a guy like that. I need someone who's going to hype me up, dude. I mean, this man was literally laying over, like, 3 different people on the bench.
I fucking died when I saw that.
What, I forget, someone hit a 3. I think we were watching together, Dylan. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, he's laying across the bench right now.
Yeah. Like, that's who I need to introduce me to some baddie at the bar. Like, I need a Daniel Freitag on my team.
Honestly,
I feel like people probably could have, like, I could have gone a lot of different ways.
Crazy kid wants to hang out with an 18-year-old boy, but whatever, that's fine.
So,
it's not crazy because it's super legal.
Before you throw out any other names, there is a follow-up to this that is going to require another name.
Okay.
He's nervous.
My only other one would be Kevin Haywood, because did you see the picture of the boys in the offseason, then?
I didn't.
Looking ripped. The big fellas are looking yoked, dude. So yeah, give me Kevin Haywood raw. Next question.
I do want to give Ryan credit. He and I may have discussed this real briefly beforehand, just who we thought you might go with, and Ryan's like, he's gonna pick an offensive lineman.
I mean, look at Kevin Haywood. Tell me I'm wrong.
Part 2, which I'm equally as
tips.
interested in the answer. Additionally, Coop, who is the last current Badger you would want as your wingman at a bar?
I think I got one for this one too.
The last wingman I'd want at a bar?
Yeah.
Urban Meyer's not an option.
I mean, that's a tough one.
If you want to take a moment to think about it, we can go around the horn here. And
I mean, Isaac Guard's up there.
Yeah, that's immediately where my head went.
Isaac Guard,
that's exactly right.
He might be top of the list, dude. Like, I don't need your GPA to get bitches, brother. Like, I'll do it. I'm fat, but I'll do it my damn self, dude. I'll put the work in. Like, I don't need you, dog. We don't even have an honor roll to get some pussy.
My other one for that was Marcus Silver, because like that guy's got a green light on the court. You just know that he's trying to steal everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, his usage percentage relative to his minutes is too high. That's totally fair. You have to question whether or not he's a me first guy, which does go into this.
Mm-hmm. My wingman, mine's Kamari McGee, man.
Oh, so you and me both, brother. Tell me why.
Yeah.
See, I need to let that go, but there's just a couple reasons he can't be my wingman.
Jay, why is he your wingman?
He seems like a big team guy also.
But he's probably got a hog.
Well, yeah, obviously, but that's fine.
It's not, though. If that's your wingman who's just got an absolute monster on him.
What me, Coop, is like, I'm not going for a 10. Kamari and I were.
Either am I, but they call
Kamari
him.
And I are on,
Cam.
There's levels to this. Kamari and I were not in the same league, so I'll go for the ugly chick that's with the girl that he's going for.
Well, no, I'm not going to call them ugly. I'm going to be polite about it. But
I think Kamari is an absolute swagger hound program guy. Like he's just somebody who uplifts you being around him, and that's all the more I need to walk around with the confidence needed to seal the deal.
Yeah,
so I'm riding with Kamari McGee as well.
He's also like not a 6'8" guy or something. I mean, like Freetag's not either, but like he's not overly tall, so you know that they're not going to be. He's not going to like massively outshine you on that front.
You don't know that. He might outshine you on a couple fronts, dude.
Ryan, we got to pivot away from this. Who's your wingman?
Coop's getting horned up. We got to, let's go.
I'm getting dehorned.
I think for me, just knowing the nature of the position, I feel like my wingman would have to be Bill Edwards, just because with a name like that and just how religious he is. He's not just knocking him down and slaughtering him, but he is gonna get a pack that are coming at him, and just like hyenas, like you just scrape off the trailers. So if you want a wingman, you want the quarterback because that's gonna have a lot of attention.
To me, quarterback should never be the wingman. Quarterback should be the front man.
He's gonna take your top 2 or 3. But then there's gonna be about 10 other ones that want to be with one that will be okay with the friend that knows. So you got picks 3 through 10.
Ryan's making a lot of excellent points here, and one thing I hadn't really considered is how well a guy like Billy Edwards and myself might work. I mean, I've seen his get up. The guy's rocking Carhartts and blue jeans. That's basically my
also another.
That's why he goes by Bill.
I think that's our chemistry.
That's the thing. This is a big thing, boys. Is he Bill or Billy?
Billy.
No, I gotta make a case for this right now.
I'd rather have a Billy.
Carhartts,
really?
Jesus chain, quarterback, red hair, playing at Wisconsin. He is Bill Edwards slamming
Billy
on Saturday after the game.
I'd rather have a Billy.
Why do you want Billy? I kind of like Bill.
I like Billy. Fucking Billy Edwards Jr. just slinging it.
I mean, it does work, but like Bill Edwards to the house for 6 sounds pretty fucking cool.
We've had enough generic white guy dudes. We don't need any more.
No, but just think, he's just cracking open some Schlitz after like a rough game at Camp Randall where we just got our ass beat 42-10, and
Bill has grit.
He's grit factory foreman.
Yeah.
Is that who asked the question?
Bill cracks open slits. Billy could crack me open, dog.
Bill just seems like a cold weather quarterback.
Bill Edwards, I'm telling you, you gotta drop the Y. Bill Edwards is a monster.
I need a Billy.
So we're gonna end on this note, and only one person on this panel actually knows this is coming. Jay, you're about to get blindsided. Oh, we are gonna end the show with a "What are we doing here?" moment of the week. So earlier this
fuck
week,
shit.
I'm gonna give Jay the chance for rebuttal.
I'm not like this. Some fuck shit, bro.
Before you and I go in, we have to give him a chance for rebuttal. I'm fair if nothing else. So I find myself on for work purposes. I'm on LinkedIn earlier this week, and my boy Jay shows up. He's on there. I've already connected. I've never posted on LinkedIn. I'm not not fully sure I understand the platform. Anyway, so a former teacher that Brandon and I both had named Miss Pockle, pops up, who is, and I'll spare the details, a mortal enemy of Brandon.
She's a cunt.
You said it this time.
Are we friends?
And it says you have one mutual connection, Jason Long. Wow. Okay. I was taken aback, so I take a screenshot. I send it over to Coop earlier this week. I'm like, I would hate for this to be how a good friendship comes to an end. I'm like, but Brandon, what do we do about this? And he's like, we gotta cut him off.
Yeah, I was ready to leave you for dead. Then,
so here
I'll unfollow her right now, boys.
So
you're gonna call her right now?
I said I'll unfollow.
So
I thought you were gonna call her. I was like, yeah, call her. Please call her.
But I just want to know, just a quick rebuttal. Is there a good reason why you would have kept that woman in your life?
I didn't even know that. I don't go on LinkedIn ever, so I had no idea. Now I'm on there. I had 15 notifications on LinkedIn when I just opened the app.
I'm feeling better about the answer.
I had no
idea. In the moment, I didn't know where to turn.
Well, where'd you two go for dinner tonight?
Vintage.
Great spot.
Right.
It's a good spot. It is a good spot.
Yeah, Vintage is a good spot.
On the East Wash, location.
Apparently, so
but fuck Miss Paco, dude.
All right.
That feels like the right place to end it.
Fucking Hunchback and Notre Dame.
End the show with an ultimatum, though. I'm gonna have to I have to see with my own eyes that she's been unfollowed by this time next week, or I'm not sure collectively we'll be.
Like, I told Dylan, like, when we were in school, she was our history teacher, and now she's like the library media technician. What a fall from grace! She fucking deserves it.
School library media specialist.
Exactly, and she deserves that fall from grace.
Guys, she's a Badger alum.
She's terrible. She's a horrible human being.
Jesus.
Top two worse, and she's not two.
She's not a Talkin Badgers fan. Otherwise,
if she's a Talkin Badgers fan, I hope she gets lupus.
We should send her the link. Before you unfollow send her a link to the show.
She told me. I remember she told me I wouldn't be anything. Bitch, I make probably 1.5 more times money than you at my job right now. You tell me I don't mean anything. I could buy you.
Before we get out of here, I'm just gonna let any Talkin Badgers listeners who have made it this far know. I knew it before this, but the moment that I knew that Coop was an absolute ride or die best friend, it was freshman year of high school, Miss Pockle's social studies class.
Yeah.
We had a surprise pop quiz, and I don't know why she singled me out in front of the class. She puts the test on my desk, and she's like, Dylan, did you even do the reading last night? And I just looked at her and said, no, I didn't. Like, I'm not gonna be real. I know I didn't.
Neither did I.
And so, I'm gonna spare a couple details here, but I deserve to be kicked out of the class in some of the follow-up. And so I grab my belongings and I leave. So does Brandon. Brandon was not a part of this. And no, Brandon just he dips out with me. I was like, hey man, you don't have to do this.
Fucking boy, dog.
He's like, no man, she doesn't talk to you that way. He's like, I'm fucking out of here. So he left with me, and he kicked himself out of class just because he felt like I had been done wrong. So it was in that moment that I knew that shit was for life. But for record, I fully deserve to be kicked out that day. So I mean, he took a weird stance, but I appreciate it as a friend.
Yeah, if there's one thing, like, you can accuse me of a lot of things, but not being for the boys isn't one of them. I'm always for the boys.
These are facts.
I literally, I probably ruined someone's reproductive, like, family heritage for Dylan in a Tri-County basketball tournament game in Middleton, Wisconsin.
That is also a true story, and one that I think is worth telling when we come back here next week. I want to appreciate everyone who took the time to submit questions. I'm going to try to make this a little bit more regular thing now that I've got an infant who sleeps some rather than none. And, we'll catch you back here next week and Wisconsin.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Still recording.
I feel